Good afternoon, I'm Rielle Creighton.
And I'm Maxine Stryker.
As Fox 45 News sees video after video from our viewers showing violent interactions with squeegee kids, some members of the City Council are now doing something about it.
The Public Safety Committee is holding an hours-long hearing on the problem. Let's listen in.
Yes, thank you. I'm Kay Peffley. I wanted to share my experiences, which unfortunately have mostly been negative, when I have crossed these intersections as a driver. I have been surrounded with my car and unable to move it. I have been called nasty names. My license plate is dented where one of the guys kicked it. They have hit the sides of my car. They have sprayed my car. When they do the windshield, I can wash the windshield.
Alexa Ashwell looks into how a change in the city state's attorney's office may help the police department address crime, like the concerns about squeegee kids.
Rebecca Fire is pressing the mayor for answers on his squeegee kid stance. But first, Amy Simpson is live from City Hall with full coverage on this hearing. Amy?
Yeah, as you heard, this city hearing is still underway down here at City Hall. 3 hours after it began, members of the public now participating in a public comment portion. You just heard from one woman there. This afternoon, we did learn that city officials have established 25 intersections across the city and at least 160 kids actively squeegeeing citywide. Most of the discussion this afternoon was centered around what's being done and what can be done to meet what they call the unmet needs of these squeegee kids, whether that be food, housing, counseling, education. The list really goes on. But some in the city also continue to ask why illegal solicitation at these intersections is not being enforced by police. About an hour into this 3-hour-long hearing this afternoon, Councilman Mark Conway did question Police Commissioner Michael Harrison about enforcement and how drivers should handle unwanted interactions with squeegee kids. Take a listen.
So if a person is in a car stopped at an intersection and someone bangs on the window and dumps Windex on their car, what should the driver do? And if there's an officer at the intersection observing that action, how would they be told to react?
Windex, as in this scenario, is dumped on the car. That's unwanted criminal behavior. That constitutes what we would say is damage to the vehicle. That's enforceable. The person is the complainant would call the police. We would come out to the location, take a report, or they can go somewhere where we can meet them. Then it becomes a matter of looking for the person who did that.
Now, Amy, we know that some of these squeegee kids are under the age of 18, may have even dropped out of school. Are Baltimore City Schools involved in this conversation at all?
So, Maxie, this was actually kind of a surprise this afternoon. We learned that City Schools is right now not involved in this this conversation. This was a topic raised by both Councilman Zeke Cohen and then later by Councilwoman Odette Ramos, asking if Baltimore City Schools is at the table and what's being done to get these kids back to school. A deputy mayor did tell members of City Council that while they do have a former member of City School staff on their team, they will work to ensure Baltimore City Schools is at the table moving forward. We'll have much more coming up at 5 o'clock. Live at City Hall, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
In 3 weeks since Baltimore police say that a 15-year-old squeegee kid shot and killed Timothy Reynolds. Since that day, Fox 45 News has been flooded with videos and stories from our viewers about their own heated encounters with squeegee kids. Despite the disturbing details, City Council members didn't do much to solve the problem during a hearing today, leaving many of you frustrated. Keith Daniels joins us live now. He pressed the City Council about the hearing and the frustration. Keith, what did they have to say?
Well, we heard from many of the council members in today's council hearing, but tonight it's the chairman of that committee that's standing up to our questions about the enforcement and frustration. At Baltimore City Hall, the City Council's Public Safety and Government Operations Committee with a hearing. At issue, squeegee kids and what to do about them. Youth who wipe windshields for tips on city streets.
We need stronger programs that support the children.
I do believe that meeting their basic needs is critical.
I view this as a failure on city government to address many of the challenges that our young people, young adults, because not all kids out there are facing.
Wednesday's hearing comes after a string of incidents involving confrontations between squeegee kids and motorists. One of the latest scenes, a violent encounter caught on video Sunday at President and Lombard Streets. A driver standing outside of his car punched by a squeegee kid. At the hearing, some observers believing it focused more on squeegee kids and their plight, not constituents' concerns. Comments on social media during the live stream include, people are just supposed to accept being harmed, while politicians pander to the criminal element. Get them off the corners. They're talking about everything but removing them. The innocent victims are not even a thought. And then comments from Jay, a Baltimore resident with his virtual testimony, who says he was the victim of a confrontation with squeegee kids last year near the Inner Harbor.
I contacted the police, who did nothing. My question is really simple. What's being done to restore law and order on the corners immediately?
Jay's question unanswered in the hearing, the committee only taking comments. But after the hearing,
it's a very difficult problem to resolve.
We pressed the committee's chair, Councilman Mark Conway, for answers to several questions, including Jay's question.
First and foremost, I think the intention of the hearing was to understand what we're doing, what is available to us. And I think from that perspective, I think we did a really, really good job. On the enforcement side, we know that we are unable to enforce that ordinance that prohibits panhandling. It's a First Amendment right, which is a surprise to me. The one instance in which we can is when there's a public safety concern.
Well, we learned today that the city has identified 25 intersections where about 160 kids are squeegeeing across Baltimore. Well, live tonight, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.